Welcome to Human Experience, a podcast about life, sharing experiences, and how to make yourself feel better. Men need to talk more about their well-being, so let's make a start.
So welcome to episode 3 of Human Experience. This week, Chris and I want to be talking to you about the positive steps we've taken in our life that have certainly helped with mental health that we've had, and we'd like to share that with you. This week's episode, we want to cover on a couple of points that we've found very helpful, discuss things like meditation, diet, exercise, and the habits that we've found and taken that's really formed the foundation of the steps to improve our mental health. The real foundation of these is the habits that we've tried to create for ourselves. So things like meditation, diet, exercise have become a real foundation of what Chris and I have been talking about throughout this journey that we've been on. And believe it or not, the discussions around exercise were actually how Human Experience really kicked off in the infancy, because we were just talking about how certainly my habits that I were forming around exercise and how I was starting to feel better and making strides of improvement, and then really how we could get this out to people. So that's the initial infancy of how this all started, really. So this could be like one of the first conversations we ever had, just regurgitated for this podcast.
Yeah, I think it was, mate. I think what were we talking about the podcast being called then? Was it Dad Bods or something like that?
Yeah.
Was that the first version?
That was first title. Yeah, well, we're Dad Bods, and and it were all around me just doing garage gym review.
Yeah. But from small acorns do great trees grow. So hopefully we're getting there. And I think getting back to the topic, like there's definitely going to be a massive undertone in this episode about physical and mental health linking together, because the one and the same sort of thing, and they feed into each other. And if you look after your physical health, you're definitely on the right track for looking after your mental health. And just to kind of frame some of that, because we are going to go into meditations. Certainly been a sort of cornerstone of improvements I've made in my own life, and the science is really starting to back that up. So there's more and more interest in meditation out there, and I'm sure over the last 5 years people have noticed that it gets talked about more. It's more of a normal thing to hear rather than like some sort of wacky hippie sort of thing. And you can tell by some of the studies. So like between 1995 and 2006 there was only 11 medical sort of studies, like proper scientific studies, but between 2013 and 2015 there was 216. So you can see it's sort of exploding there, and it's getting a lot of traction. And I think a lot of that's from like sort of people, business leaders, celebrities, that it's a lot more talked about and a lot more interest in it. And what those, like, as a sort of, I was thinking, like, what have those studies found? Because, it's all right me saying it's worked for me or whatnot, but I'm a facts-based person and I believe the science, and that just spurs me on if I think that proves something, and actually it does in this case. So there's still quite a bit of discussion around what actual benefits they see proven across the board, but certainly depression, chronic pain and anxiety, well-designed studies have shown that there are benefits for engaging in mindfulness meditation, similar to that of taking medication. So it's a way to get over those sort of things, or certainly make them better without going down the medication route. So I thought that was encouraging and interesting. And also, moving on from that study, there was a new study which actually showed the link between calming the mind and a reduction in blood pressure. It looked at a set of people, and it looked at 172 different genes that regulate inflammation and metabolism and stuff like that. And after an 8-week session of doing 15 minutes a day mindfulness meditation, it was linked to a meaningful decrease in the patient's blood pressure, which to me just sort of epitomizes what we're probably going to go on to say, is that your mind impacts your body impacts your mind. So I thought it's really interesting that the science is catching up with that stuff.
Yeah. I'm going to probably butcher this saying, but I can remember a saying that a friend said to me. It was something like, wherever the mind goes, the body will follow. So it's like, obviously, when you get yourself in that right mental frame of mind, you got to take the body with you. It could have been a flip of that. So people correct me if I've butchered that wrong. But it was something like that.
Yeah, we'll go with it. It makes sense anyway. So yeah, I think that's exactly how this whole journey started for me and you. It was, trying to get our physical health on track and get some positive habits in our life that we could sort of anchor ourselves to, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely, mate. So as Chris has said, there's a lot of good things there around, the meditation, diet, exercise, which sort of started forming the basis of our conversations that we're having together. Now, from my personal experience, what I recognised early on is that I had a lot of bad habits that had formed over years and years and years, which weren't supporting my mental health at all, which were bad diet, poor sleep habits. So I recognised that I had to get these under control to really stand any chance of trying to improve my mental health. And another tip for listeners that I would definitely recommend, which is a book that I read to sort of get my habits under control, which was a book called Atomic Habits by James Clear. Again, we'll bob this book into the description and show notes, but certainly it's a book that I would recommend for anyone that's wanting to improve the habits that they have. So what this book talks about is it talks about focusing on the 1% improvements to your habits. Now, I was very much a person who were like all or nothing mentality. Like if I didn't wake up and I didn't exercise on a Monday, I didn't exercise all week. If I didn't eat the scheduled plan that I had on a Monday, then I just ate crap all week. So it was very much like I were in or I were out. And to be honest, the majority of the time I were out. And again, as I go through this conversation, diet is something that's been a struggle for me, but the rest of the foundation seems to be there. So,
yeah, do you know, I've read that book as well, and like the best thing that the one thing that's probably stuck the most is never miss twice. Do you know, like, and I think that's that Monday thing, isn't it? Like, I'm exactly the same as you. I've missed Monday, so I'm going to go 5 weeks without training now. Whereas if you just got back in the gym on the Tuesday, you're pretty much back on track before you know it.
Yeah, exactly. And there were a YouTuber that I watched one of his videos, Jeff Cavalier, Athlete Exit is the YouTube site. And he talked about like splitting your meals out into the week. So, you might have, I'm just making this number up, but say 42 meals in that week. And he says, look at it as in you've got a batting average. So if you have 42 meals in that week, in the week, and you eat 38 good ones, you've got a solid batting average there. If you have one out of those 42 terrible, and then you go, right, the next 41 are also going to be garbage, then yeah, it's a recipe for disaster. But trying to focus on that, right? Yeah, I've missed here, but I ain't going to miss again. I'm going to try and stick back at it. And that's really sort of like built the foundations up to trying to improve my mental health. And I would recommend any listeners out there to pick up that book and give it a read. How about yourself, Chris?
Yeah. Like, I was just thinking then about, I watched your journey from the sidelines after that first conversation we'd had, which we've talked about in previous episodes, where you kind of opened up about where your head was at with anxiety and stuff. And really what struck me from you was like, as soon as you got into that solid gym routine, you've got your home gym, it was easy just to get up and do it before work. Like as soon as you'd got like 3 weeks solid in or 4 weeks solid, you totally shifted your mindset, and you stopped becoming, somebody trying to be like Mr. Universe and like getting down about not being there, being like, look, I'm just going to be pound for pound the best I can be, given all my other commitments like work, family life and all that. If I can just train every day regularly each week or on my set routine, then 12 months from now, my body will be totally different. And that's that 1% gain, which you've totally done and you've stuck to it, haven't you?
Yeah. So, it's all about the routine for me. So like, I still like have a dad bod now. I'm still not Mr. Universe, nowhere near that. But the routine of getting up every day, it just gives, it's something that I enjoy. So it's finding that thing that you enjoy and getting that into your routine. So it's not something that you like sacrificing yourself to do. You actually enjoy doing it. So like, I went through a couple of journeys, through this of like taking up different sports, giving it a try. So I tried jiu-jitsu, as you'll be able to relate, because I know you did as well. And, I loved it, but it was too much of a commitment when I had work all day. I was coming home, getting the kids' tea with my wife, and then going out to train jiu-jitsu at like 7 o'clock at night. It were an hour and a half, 2 hour class, getting back in, then having to sit down for my tea, then having to get to sleep to get up for work the next day. I know I were only doing it a couple of days a week, but I can remember then, picking up little niggle of injuries when you're in your mid-30s. You're not like the young 20-year-old that I was that could just recover and be back in it the next day. So all those little things started to add up. But what that then generated is a negative image in my mind. I was quitting. And then that just started a process again of, oh, you've quit something, you've started it, oh, you're back to where you started. So, a big reason for me building a garage gym was the fact that it eliminated a lot of my excuses. And it's easy for me just to go in and do a little bit. And even on my bad days, if I have a bad workout, it's better than no workout in my head. So just building those strong habits.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think I learned a lot off your journey from my own journey. I mean, there's this saying, or there's a book somewhere I've read, and I'll try and link it in the show notes, where willpower will only get you so far. It's only a short-term measure. Like I've lost count the amount of times where I've joined gyms, quit gyms. I've decided to do one workout and do it after work, but when I get out after work, I'm just too tired to do it. And I just became a serial quitter of every single thing, and not even just health. Like I've always been an avid sort of reader and tried to better myself through courses, but I've probably got about 20 online courses that I've bought and just never finished any of them. Like just because I probably fall into that trying to get 100% better rather than 1% better. Like it's trying to be too good too quick rather than incremental sort of growths. And I think where my fitness journey certainly over the last 6 months really just flipped 180 is just I bought a couple of kettlebells and they're literally down in my living room. So when I get up in the morning, they're just sat there. And I'm not going to say I enjoy particularly like mid kettlebell session because it's like 80, 90% workload. But if I do 15, 20 minutes a day, probably 5 days a week, then that's my fitness needs sort of taken care of. And that's a small amount of time investment, money investment. I'm not in any membership. I paid like 20 quid for a kettlebell or something, but I feel so much better after that. Like you just get ready for work after that and I'm just buzzing. As long as I've sweated once a day, like through physical activity, then I feel like my body's ticking over. And I remember the mindset shift that really pushed me on for that was like, I think in the past I was always bothered about the most snazziest workout routine or looking like so-and-so or getting a decent equipment. Whereas I just said to myself, right, you're just somebody who exercises now. That's who you are. That's part of who you are. Just be somebody that exercises rather than worry about any of that other shit. Just be somebody that exercises. And that's I've stuck to that solid for 6 months now, and I'm probably in one of the best shapes I've been in for a long time. So it's just, and that's all that 1% stuff, which I think's just aim to be 1% better each day or each week, and 12 months, which goes in a blink of an eye, and you'll be solid. Like, and I don't know what you think, Stu, but if I go a day without training now, I'm like, get me in that. The next morning, I'm just revved up. I'm almost like bursting out of bed in the morning to grab that first kettlebell swing and just get it out and done that. Because I feel like because I am somebody who exercises now. When I don't do that, I feel like, nah, that's not who you are, and don't miss twice is a key part of that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Now when you get that routine and that solid foundation, then that will sort of spur you on to keep doing it. I got an app called Strong, and on that app you can measure your workouts, you can log it, and that were good for me. And what I really like on it's got a calendar, so you can see how many days you've hit, how many days you've missed. And it was like a personal triumph that I was like hitting the days that I'd set myself to be in there and doing it. And like you said, like this can be done with minimal equipment. This can be done with body weight training. I mean, I invested money in a garage gym, and it's become almost like a hobby of mine, as you often mock me for. I've always got to try and get another bit of gym equipment in my garage, so it's bursting at the seams. But literally, like, a skippy rope and a kettlebell, if I had minimal equipment, that would be like the first go-to things that I'd have. Would be like skippy rope, kettlebell, or just a bench and a set of adjustable dumbbells. Like, you're good to go.
Yeah, I think you can almost overcomplicate it to give yourself an excuse not to do it. And I know that's certainly what I did. Like some complicated work. Or one of the things that used to get me is like I'd spend an hour looking for the perfect workout routine, and then by the time I found it, like I can't be asked exercising now, and you just kid yourself. But literally, if you wanted to get any kettlebells, there's an app. Just type kettlebell app into your phone, and it's a free app, and it literally, you set how long you want to do each session, and it'll just generate you a workout. And for me, that's key. I don't want to have to think about doing it. I just want somebody to tell me what you need to do, give me a set time and put some tunes on and just do it, just get through it, and you've done it, and that's your day sorted from a health perspective.
Good, strong habit to create as well. We've talked a lot there about the exercise portion of the steps that we've taken, and this is something that I plan to keep in my daily routine. By no means am I a Olympian. I have a typical dad bod, typical lad, and one of the things that I did struggle with, like Chris has probably did touch on earlier, is I'm looking on YouTube for stuff like best workout plan for X, best workout plan for Y. And I was just seeing a lot of like Mr. Universe training things, and that didn't tick the boxes for me. So I was like just trying to, like Chris said, I was just trying to find what is the best bang for my buck in 45 minutes that's not going to injure me. And I pretty much ended up with like a 4-day split. Me and my mate do it on a morning before work, obviously before the lockdown and things kicked in, and I've just kept to it since this lockdown's been going on. Like I really did think I'd struggle when my mate stopped coming down every morning to train with me, but I've just kept getting up, going in, and that's my routine. And I couldn't recommend that as a pillar to get yourself feeling better.
Yeah, I would say like building block number one for both of us is exercise, regular exercise. You just have so much benefit on your mental health, physical health. You look better, feel better, and it bleeds over to diet as well. You eat healthier when you're working out because otherwise it's just going to waste. Now, don't get me wrong, we both enjoy a treat every now and again, but we've earned it. If you've burnt the calories, you can do the crime then, can't you, after that? But you've got to do it that way around. Because you don't know if he wants to train after a full bag of Haribo, do you?
I think that's my Achilles heel. Like, for all these habits, I was just going to bring us on to diet, because that's the one that started off like a thunderbolt again. I dropped, when I was first starting out from this, I dropped about 16 pounds, I think it was, just over a stone, and that that in the main were purely through to like not having any appetite due to anxiety. But I said to myself at the time, I'll keep the weight off. But then as I started to build back my mental resilience to anxiety, appetite came back. I'd been training hard, been working all day. And at the end of the day, I've got 2 little kids in the house, a wife. They want some snacks in there as well. And obviously, Daddy steps in and just devours all the snacks. So that's something that I'm still working on. That's still my journey at the minute, is to cut down on the amount of snacks that I'm eating. But diet again, for me, would be pillar number 2. If we're structuring this, then that, to me, if you can get yourself eating right. And there's a couple of things that I just want to share on what I did when I was looking for diet tips. And one of them, a smoothie. Now, whether this worked or whether it didn't, whether it was just like I thought it would work, so my mind just told me it did, who knows? But it was an anti-anxiety smoothie that you mix with a protein shake, and it adds spinach in there. You can find it when you go online. It's on there if you just type in anti-anxiety smoothie. And it's basically like upping the amount of magnesium that you have in your diet. So this study that comes with the shake recipe talks about how people with anxiety, they have the drop in magnesium, drop in vitamin D, I believe it is, the one with the sunlight. Because that was another trigger for me, that I recognised that I had it worse when it got to the back end of winter. So it was always around February time, tipping into March, where it hit me the most. And it was, every year around that time for about 4 years on the bounce. It was like it's clockwork. So I just, through that time period, I just started putting those smoothies into my daily routine. And even if I didn't stick to it like year round, I just had it through those periods where I was feeling like at the most weak, so to speak. So definitely like have a look at things like that. And certainly if you can't do it on the long haul, or you think, oh, I'm not, that's not for me, maybe just try it when you're like feeling at your most mentally weak stage, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah. Definitely, man. And even if it is your own mind just saying it worked for you, that's enough. It's like the placebo effect, isn't it? Whatever works to make yourself feel better, it's worth giving it a go. So it's a good tip.
Definitely.
In terms of that. And just continuing on the diet front. So I approach diet similar to what you said with the batting average stuff. Like if I can hit a week 80 to 90% decent food, then you know what, weekend gets here, I'll have a few beers and a pizza or whatever, do you know what I mean? But weekdays, and we were joking about you like a treat, whatnot, but your core meals are decent, aren't they? It's hitting your macros. It's like protein. You're getting your fruit and veg and that. So, and part of this exercise thing, like I always, for a long time, I was hung up on, because I'm naturally a skinny guy. Like I was a skinny kid at school, like barely put any weight on or whatnot. And I always wanted to be like muscly, like stacked and that. And when I was younger, like that really, like, was a body sort of issue for me. And I think that always pushed me towards unnatural sort of workout routine. So like really like strongman stuff. I'd have to pile my body full of calories and protein shakes just to get that calorie sort of surplus to build the muscle. And it just made me feel sick because I didn't have the appetite for what I was eating. And I thought eventually I just like, it was unsustainable because I just didn't enjoy it. Whereas now, I have my protein shake after workout, but I don't have creatine. I don't have any of these like hard gainer type high carb stuff. I just do my workout, eat my diet that makes me feel full but not overly full, and I'm comfortable with the body I've got now. Like it is what it is. As long as I'm looking for, I think we talked about it before as well, Stu, like I'm more of, exercise for me is longevity. I want to live a long, healthy life. I don't want to live to 90 but be knackered at 60 because I haven't been running or my heart's totally screwed or whatnot. So that I'm here for a long time and a good time.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more, mate. Like, a lot of stuff that we're talking about here, if we were professional athletes, would not be the way to go. Like this is no, and I guess that's something that me and you sort of accepted, which could have been contributing factors. That it's like, you're not gonna be able to run the 100 meters as fast as Usain Bolt ever. So so then my logic will be, well, why even run 100 meters if you're never going to do it?
But, what's the point?
Yeah, but you can make yourself faster than you are today. You're only, and this is a saying, you're in competition with yourself. So as long as I, Stu, can be one bit better than I was yesterday, then I've made progress, and not to be like comparing myself to Arnold Schwarzenegger or out like that, but which is never going to happen with my snacking habits.
It's so true. Yeah, it's so true. Comparing yourself to anyone other than yourself is just like a losing game because, people show the best side of you, on social media and that. It's all the photoshopped aspects of people's lives.
Yeah.
And, we're going to talk about social media in the future, but just look. Are you better than we were yesterday? If you were, great, keep doing it. If not, then just get a strategy for getting there. And that's a 1% strategy like we've talked about. Just do push your life on 1% each day in the right direction, and it'll add up over time.
Definitely. And like this atomic, sorry mate, this atomic habits that we've talked about earlier, this is like good foundation for all aspects of your life. So not just mental health, but like work, play, whatever your hobbies, your interests. That book helped me structure a lot of things professionally and socially. Yeah,
and it's a great book and totally vouch for it. What I was going to say is just want to circle back to sort of meditation because we started the show with that, and that's certainly something that probably came before anything else in my, even though I'd say exercise now is my core to keep my day-to-day going, and my morning routine with that exercise is absolutely crucial. Something else in my morning routine is meditating. So I started to do 10, 15 minutes before I exercise. And it's going back about 10 years. I'm not saying I've done it solid for 10 years because there's times where I haven't, but how I got into it and a good couple of routes into sort of mindfulness. I'd probably best summarize what I think mindfulness is before going to recommending books. So we've all got internal sort of voice that talks you through your whole day. You know, you're not mental. It is actually there. It talks you through your whole day. And, you know, if you're not careful, that voice can become like white noise. You almost don't know it's there. It's like just guiding your life. And mindfulness is all about quieting that inner voice and giving yourself space to think about stuff. So that might just be taking one deep breath and just before you react. Like, I've got a negative reaction. I mean, I would say if I don't meditate properly, it's been happening recently actually because I've let it slip. So I'm the type of person that if I've not got my mind in check in terms of mindful about things, as soon as I wake up in the morning, my mind will go to like, what is happening that day that I'm not looking forward to? Do you know, like I've got a bad meeting at work, or I've got this, I've got that. Whereas I want to be the other type of person where I'm like just grateful for actually opening my eyes and taking a breath in the morning and going out on a walk or whatnot. That's I want to be on that side of it. But if I'm not careful, I can very quickly get into, I can't be asked with that or this or that. And I'm talking about that because that I needed to break that, and 10 years ago I needed to find a way out of that because I was just repeating the same cycles in my life, like, you know, like that online course thing, like doing stuff and never finishing it, or getting into situations with, you know, my personal life, just the same cycles over and over repeating, and I just needed to change something. And while I was traveling, I read a book called The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. Now, it's got a religious undertone. I'm not religious at all, and you can read it without any of that sort of stuff bothering you. But it's more just about the power of now. Is like all you've got in your life is the moment right now. The future and the past don't really exist. They exist as stories in your head, you know. And we'll probably talk about it in more depth later on. But if you can control what happens right now in this moment, you've got control of your whole life. And that's what that book's all about. And I'd recommend reading that as a good kind of starting point in terms of mindfulness itself. And there's loads of YouTube videos with him talking about it as well. And so that was really powerful when I got into that, and I realized that I don't have to react negatively to every situation. If I just give yourself a chance to take a deep breath and react in a more constructive way rather than getting riled up. I think it was funny talking about it now, but that story you told last week, Stu, about that cup incident outside McDonald's, which is just the one thing that just pushed you completely over the edge. But if you'd have been mindful of those feelings at that point, you could have that would have been water off a duck's back. Do you know what I mean? You'd have took a deep breath, like, totally. Why am I getting bothered about this? I think in terms of resources, there's an app called Calm, CALM, and you can download it. There's a subscription if you want to pay for more stuff, but I've just got it free, and you can do a time meditation each day, and it gives you that's just reminded me of a funny story. It gives you. So this morning I was thinking I've been letting it slip recently, and you know, I could feel myself doing that thing where I wake up and think like, oh, what's going to negatively impact me today? And actually at the end of what's nice about the app is at the end of it, it gives you a quote every day. And the quote that got read this morning was, and this is a quote, "Not being opposed to anything, to flow with the current, not fight it. This is the essence of non-contention." So what that means is if you resist stuff that's happening in your life, you're going to feel bad. And what I mean by that is, like, I've been in jobs in the past where I pushed against it. I'm like, this isn't the job for me. Like, I can't believe I've ended up in this career. I hate it. I'm going to do X, Y, or Z. But every day I was going into work with that attitude, and the only person that was suffering was me. And the second I stopped resisting it and started thinking, right, find one thing you like about this job and build on that. As soon as I started doing that, my career shut off, and it's been like I've never looked back from that point. But that was me resisting life. And I read that quote this morning, it just penny dropped again, and I was like, right, you need to remember that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've started listening to those. I mean, I'm a noob to meditation. It's not something that I'm really good at, and I tend to only do it on the mornings that I get up to exercise. So let's say four times a week. But on YouTube, they offer like 10-minute guided meditations that I've just been listening to, which cool. I'm finding very, very good at the minute. Yeah,
and like I'm not 7 days a week by any stretch of the mean, but I need to do it probably 5 days a week just to keep in track with that. And then after a while, you don't even need to sit there for 10 minutes. Like, you just like that. A really powerful tool is just when you feel yourself getting riled up, just breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth like 2 or 3 times without doing anything else. That will just pause whatever's happening in your mind and just give you a bit of clarity. And that's a really simple technique that you can use you just need to sometimes have that moment to think like, actually, is what I was about to react with going to be good for this situation? And 9 times out of 10, it's probably not going to be good for it if you're reacting out of anger or frustration.
Yeah, and it really helps, and this is something I'm still working on. I am by no means a master at this, but it really helps like quiet the ego. So when the ego kicks in, that's when I have reacted in the past. Because I've got obviously this mental image of how I should react and how I've been programmed to react. But, not in every situation is that the best thing to be doing. So certainly the meditation is something I'm trying to work on to help me take pause in those moments and just give me a second to consider what the best course of action is.
Yeah. And just while we're probably rounding off this section, another book that I read shortly after The Power of Now, and if the religious sort of thing maybe puts you off, which I understand, then this one's probably more up your street. It's called 10% Happier. And the subtitle is How I Tamed the Voice in My Head, Reduced Stress Without Losing My Edge, and Found Self-Help That Actually Works. And that's by a guy called Dan Harris. So a brief overview is that he's basically, I think he was a quite high up news anchor in USA. It's a really stressful job. He used to report in war zones and stuff. And then he went on a search with all these different self-help gurus and whatnot, and Eckhart Tolle was actually one of them, and he picked bits off each of them that worked for him and discarded the rest. And he said, my aim is if I could just make my life 10% happier, I'm winning. Because he admitted that you can never be 100% happy all the time, and absolutely can't, but if you could just aim for that 10%, it's those small wins that will really turn your life around. So that's another good book that I'd recommend for people wanting to look into it.
And that's what you've just touched on there is one of the main things that I had to realise throughout this entire journey with mental health is that anxiety is just a natural emotion that we feel and that humans have within them. And to sit here and say, I want to be anxiety free is not a realistic possibility, but it's just being able to manage it, be resilient to it and cope through it and understand what it is rather than letting it just totally control you in that cycle of fear.
Yeah. Definitely. It's about living with it, finding techniques that work. We've talked about some of ours, like, our morning routine is, meditate if we can, and then exercise every day that you want to in the week. So 4 or 5 days a week. That is pretty much a bulletproof morning, and you can cope with a lot of things after that if you get that right. And then stuff like diet and sleep falls onto that as well. So definitely take a read of the books that we've suggested. Give us a shout if you've got any questions further about what we've spoke about today. But it's not rocket science. You just need to commit to it. Find a routine that's going to work for you. Like my morning routine's half hour, 15 minutes meditation, 15 minutes exercise, maybe 20 minutes some days, and I am good to go for that day after that.
Yeah. I'd agree with that. I do a little bit more, but that's just through my choice of time in the gym, and also to counteract the amount of snacking we've established that I do on this episode. And we haven't touched on it massively, but I'd say like sleep is definitely the fourth pillar to this. So we've talked about exercise, diet, meditation, and sleep is a massive one. That you get the habits of those 4 right. For me, what I found, then you're good to go.
Yeah,
in any
definitely.
situation, in my opinion.
Definitely. And that's a perfect balance for your mental and physical health there, isn't it?
So that concludes this week's episode. Chris and I would like to thank you for listening. Please subscribe and leave us a review to help our community grow. You'll find links to our social media and any other resources discussed in this episode in our show notes.